Hello and welcome to this week's Beyond the Hub. We're going to be diving into why every sales leader should be using AI in their teams. So, hopefully, you're going to leave with some ideas and some tips, but also some reassurance from someone who's one, been running sales teams for years, and then two, using AI daily since it first popped up. And that person is going to be Eric, who I've got with me today. So, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you give us a little intro about yourself?
So I'm Eric. I'm a principal consultant here at BabelQuest, which means I get involved in all the big, interesting and complicated stuff. So I typically get involved in the pre-sales perspective, helping clients work out what the solution should be, how they're going to be able to implement it. I then go into those projects as well and oversee them from a strategic perspective to make sure they achieve the outcomes that they want, and then they get set up well for success in the future. So I get involved in all kinds of interesting things. I've been around CRMs for a long time. To say the first CRM I worked on wasn't even called a CRM. It had a brown screen with yellow text, and the best job you could get in it was updating the price files. And you'd wait for a hot day to do that because you had to go and sit on the server in the only air-conditioned room in the building. So I bagged that job. It was great. Spent the whole day in.
So,
Um,
things have moved on since then.
yeah, but no. Um, CRMs, they're still at their core, they're still a relational database. There's something they're in the cloud, but I mean, functionally, how they've always worked is kind of how they always did. HubSpot's peculiar because it didn't come from being a CRM. That's the bit that I'm most interested in with it, but because it does the hard part. It's really good at understanding buyer intent. And when it comes to AI, having all of that information in one place is where the real game changer is. It's not having the AI doing the heavy lift and trying to piece it together from everywhere else. There's something quite powerful by having that unified data set for the AI to work on.
And that's where things have kind of shifted a little bit, and we're seeing that shift again now. So, to start off, let's talk about that actually. So, can you explain what's driving this shift towards AI in sales processes and in terms of like integrating it into your process?
Okay, what do you mean apart from all the hype? Like,
Yeah.
let's not discount the hype straight off. I mean, AI is a particularly impressive and sexy and fast-moving bandwagon that everyone's jumping on, and that creates momentum all on its own. Nobody wants the FOMO, right? But
Mhm.
there are some more fundamental things going on as well, though. So let's look at two of them that AI is particularly good at: speed and quality. So that fastest finger first wins is true in many competitive sales situations still, where the first salesperson to respond is the most likely to win the deal. And our automation can do this for you alone, of course, but what AI can do is add the quality to it as well. So it can research faster, it can research deeper than a salesperson can in the same amount of time to find that context for a more targeted and personalized response to the sales inquiry. I don't agree with all of the nonsense that's coming out of certain CEOs on LinkedIn about there won't be any salespeople in the future. Next year, though, I won't have any salespeople in my organization. It's all going to be done by AI. I mean, I'm not interested in having an AI avatar try to run a discovery call with me over Zoom. But if it can respond to my initial inquiry in context and let me know if I'm asking the right kind of provider, the right sort of question immediately, then I'm all up for that. And I'm far more likely to book the discovery call with that provider than the one that makes five missed times, low quality attempts to get hold of me over the next week. If I'm thinking like if I'm reaching out to somebody from that sales perspective, they're in the sales perspective, I'm the buyer. I've already pretty much gone through my awareness stage. I've understood the pain. I've linked it to where I am. I've got some potential shortlisted solutions. I've also worked out that timing is probably now. It's that I've got, if I'm ready to talk, I've already recognized this has got a high level of importance and urgency for me. It's become a priority. I've also worked out I can't do it myself. And
Mm.
so when I'm beginning to reach out, want to talk to somebody in sales for something that's complex or risky or new, I've always got it in my head. What questions do I need to ask of the person who might be able to help me? And if the AI is being able to respond to that straight away and then help me identify, can I now go and talk to these salespeople? And that's an absolute win for me. The AI needs to be able to enable the salesperson to help me because if I could self-serve, I'd have done it already.
That's a really good point there, actually, about the AI helping the salesperson. So, And there's kind of two spectrums here. There's people like those CEOs on LinkedIn that are talking about the avatars and they're very used to AI. And then there's people that really are quite new to AI in sales. So let's kind of address them. So how can you explain, I suppose, how AI can help day to day for sales teams?
Okay, so planning, research, note taking, follow up, admin, self coaching. There are loads of admittedly boring ways to improve the quality of those day-to-day tasks. Lots of things don't happen because they're time consuming, because they're hard. And there's always another shiny object to chase in sales. Like, should I put in the extra time to be able to do the very best work I can on this thing here? Or should I chase that new shiny object that's just turned up there and get through more calls? There's always a balance on that. And there's always that pressure. And a time pressure and a priority pressure from sales as well. So having AI do that work that is detailed and time consuming is something that helps you as a salesperson do more of the things that you want to do and do them at higher quality. So there's lots of things, and I'd ask the question back, are there day-to-day tasks that there never seems to be enough time to cover? I mean, when it gets busy, are you doing your best work on each of them? So I'll give you an example of how I use or we use AI on a daily basis. So all of our sales opportunities require multiple meetings, and we gather enormous amounts of data, including important buying signals and objections to overcome. There's pre-sales work to book in and briefings to the pre-sales consultants. There's proposals to draft, solutions to scope, internal approvals to gain. We generate multiple essential follow-up actions for our team and theirs from every single meeting. Now, this used to mean the best part of an hour in prep for each meeting and even more for follow-up from every successful meeting. And
Mhm.
I didn't talk anything about that. All of the research that you should be doing on social and all of the news fights and all those things that we should be doing from a buyer intent perspective to get better aligned. There's just tons and tons of information that needs to be done in what we do. And we're not unusual. We're a consulting firm. We work in the B2B space. Everybody who works in B2B pretty much has a consultative sales process. It's the same everywhere. So what's happening there is that if you got the doing our best work would limit each salesperson to 2 to 3 good quality sales meetings per day. Now with tools like Breeze Intelligence inside HubSpot, chat tools like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, there are others. What's the new Timu version called? Chinese deep
Deep
some
Seek, Deep
deep,
Seek.
yeah, writing aids like Grammarly and AI transcription tools, and either the ones that are embedded in things like Zoom or Teams or Google Meet, or there's tons of add-ons like Gong and Crisp and Fathom and Otter and loads more coming out all the time. These things run alongside the meetings recordings and they summarize the discussion points and they take the wrap-up actions and they allocate action points to the right people. So now that if you're using all of those kind of things, you've got the ability to summarize the discussion points, allocate the action points, and the prep that would have taken hours now takes minutes. The wrap up is now completed almost immediately. And the salespeople who could do 2 to 3 big sales meetings a day are now stretching to 5 or 6 a day without any loss of quality or reducing the conversion rates. And particularly because you remember, it's not always the first sales meeting. If there's 6 or 7 meetings in that process, each time you go into it, you've got to get yourself back up to speed. What happened last time? What did we discuss? Where are we now? It's just too much. So I'd say from new people coming into coming to AI from a sales perspective, find the things that are taking time, use the AI to speed them up.
I like that. And I like you mentioned a couple of tools there. But I want to focus on HubSpot, obviously, because we're a HubSpot agency. And
But
HubSpot uses,
integrated with their all ecosystems that integrate
yeah,
directly and add value.
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people do that, and a lot of people leverage all of the built-in tools that HubSpot has for automation and things. So, how does AI specifically within HubSpot complement a sales leader's role?
This is an interesting question, and I have to admit, I suspected that it was AI generated. So I
It
put
was.
it so I put it into Google Gemini and asked it to answer the question, and it pulled a load of information from our competitors and on HubSpot's site, but it mostly pointed out obvious things, and by that I mean useless for the purposes of this podcast, and a lot of slop. You know
Mm,
this term slop? It's
mm,
the AI equivalent of email spam.
I love that.
So, but the answer it gave was more of a guide for me of what not to do. So sales leaders aren't fundamentally much different than leaders in other functions. You
Mhm.
continually find more ways to do things with less. But I feel this is more pressured for sales leaders because the time factor they're working on is this quarter, it's this financial year, and nobody's pressuring sales leaders for a strategy or plan that delivers in 2 years' time. And few other functional leaders are being asked for hourly and daily updates in the same way as sales leaders are.
Mhm.
So I find AI in HubSpot helps sales leaders by getting answers to the questions they have immediately. So I can ask HubSpot's Breeze Intelligence Copilot questions in natural language and it'll find me the answer I need. How many deals have advanced today? How many have been created versus qualified out this week? If we don't have the data points we need, that's exposed too, and we can make the changes we need to gather them. I'll do
Mm.
the scale if used Operations Hub to build data sets that break some complex, messy data down into manageable chunks. Having the AI powered predictive trend lines to give a better understanding of your current situation and where things are going next is really interesting. I mean, so just at a kind of top level, the challenge is are we on target, right? And if
Mhm.
not, are we trending up or are we trending down? And if not, then we to boiling that down, information is really where the sales leaders, who are they answering the question to? But ultimately, it's all better insight from the unified data, more easily accessible and adaptable without having to spend hours farting about an Excel or waiting for someone else to produce reports for you, and driving faster results from your sales team by enabling them to be more effective, as in working on the right things, and efficient, as in doing the right thing at the right time.
And I like what you've said there about the trend lines specifically, because I think that's a really good point that AI is often really praised for its ability to help spot trends and patterns. And I love that HubSpot has got the trends AI in their reporting now. But how can how else can it help identify key opportunities that could be missed for both, sales managers or reps in HubSpot and generally?
I think the most interesting area to look at for this is in buyer intent. Not
Mm.
tool or service you buy, but learning to understand what the signals within the noise mean. What I mean by that is tools like HubSpot expose certain activities of your prospects in real time. So the opening and reopening of emails, the
Mm.
viewing, reviewing of marketing and prospect and content and proposals and contracts and visiting and revisiting the website, interaction on social channels. We warn people who are new to this kind of thing that HubSpot can be like trying to drink from a fire hose at first. But if the job's not to turn the hose off, it's learn how to play in the water and have fun, right? All
Mhm.
signals you can extract from the noise are going to be particular to you, your company, and your prospects. And Marcus Sheridan, he was at the sales line, a bit of a legend in the HubSpot inbound
Mhm.
community, used to advise, they ask, you answer. AI just helps you hear the ask a bit more clearly.
I like that. And um, in terms of HubSpot being a fire hose, I love that analogy. I've not heard that before. Um, how does my next question be, how does AI in HubSpot really help with the analytics then? Because you've kind of said they ask, you answer, but what about the reporting side of it? How can it help sales leaders make better, more informed choices and decisions?
So for me, it starts with the unified data and then the ease of use that leads to a faster time to value. I mean, that's really what HubSpot's all about. And you'll see
Mhm.
all things is about fast, easy, unified. But if I think of it like this, you need your data on one side, you need your insights, you need the activity that follows from the insight and the outcome you want all happening in the same system. So this way, the AI can observe each of those key points and help us predict what is required to hit those growth objectives based on the other factors before it. So we can't move every conversion point at the same time. We
Mm.
need to focus on the ones that are going to have the most impact now and next. So it's like the whack-a-mole game, right? You got to build the skill in playing this new AI-powered version of the game. It's going to help you better predict where the thing's going to pop up. And it's going to help you better predict which one's going to pop up next, which ones do you whack next. So think of like if you're playing a whack-a-mole game, you've got really good at the stuff and it begins to light up and show you where things are, compared to playing it on 6 different machines on different sides of the fairgrounds.
Mm.
Right, HubSpot's going to help you there simply because the unified data, you're on the same playing field. Um, I'd say I asked one of my colleagues who's Chris Grant, who
Mhm.
you'll all know, who's been doing really geeking out inside of Operations Hub with custom coded actions and everything in order to be able to build more intelligent sales reports. And lots of things he was saying in there was that the thing you want to do with the with HubSpot's AI tools is really look at the set of building blocks using the unified data. How do you get your first 60% of this stuff done with AI? How do you get the foundations in place? Thinking about the kind of structure you're wanting. We're like putting a new article together and using ChatGPT for it.
Mhm.
In the structure right first, getting the foundations in to get you out to the blank page, and then you go and finish and refine it before afterwards. The same process is what's happening inside HubSpot. Also, the AI summaries of the reports are excellent.
Oh yeah.
When you're building a new report, I've got what I need. I've spent half an hour thinking through exactly how I want this visualization to work and how the drill down is going to work and all this. I've got my filters and everything done. Like I'm going to put a name on it that'll try to help me remember what it's for. But if I click the generate a summary, it will give a description of exactly what this thing is. So when I've forgotten about it, when I come back in 2 hours' time and look at it, and it's going to tell me if I want to make a change to it and regenerate the description, it will actually update the description in there as well. So that's been really powerful in just helping you know what you're looking at the time and what thought process went into it before. Also, things like calling out the happy years. So the things where salespeople go, yeah, this is great. This is my interpretation of how that sales meeting went, and but the AI transcript and summary's got actually a different take on it. Or
I love that.
I think this. The AI is going, nah, I can't see that.
Yeah.
Every time you talk to a company like that and you tell you those kind of things and said it's going to close at the end of the month, it's another 3 months on from then before you're going to get to, and you've not done the due diligence you need to do. I'm going to call it. So getting that, having the AI to be able to challenge the predictions that you're making based on its bigger data set that it's working on.
I like that. It's calling out the delusion, and keeping everybody quite humble, isn't it? I really like that. I want to go back to the whack-a-mole comment that you made actually about you can't move conversion points all at the same time and things. But that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to be focusing on leads especially. And I think sales leaders, that's all they're going to be thinking about when they're hearing this is how can AI help prioritize leads and accounts. So how can HubSpot help with that specifically?
So I particularly like the portfolio part of the new customer success workspace for this. And I know
Mhm.
it's so rather than Sales Hub, but I think there's direction of travel. But the AI account health scores: who's healthy, who's neutral, who's at risk, and what can I do about it? We're deploying elements of that functionality into company records and surfacing it up to salespeople and account managers. Many of our B2B clients have got really complex multi-year relationships with their buyers that are not always based on deal value or direct
Mhm.
spend. So the prioritization there can be a real headache, and it's beyond the functionality of things like the lead and deal scoring, which are really powerful on their own. But if you've got complex relationships over a period of time with a customer, and the win is not the revenue, it's the building a relationship
Mhm.
to be able to have further deals happen separately. Um, I think that prioritization is a real headache. So the customizations that we've been able to do with things like Operations Hub and the reports builder, and like building out the tabs in the center of the records with powerful insights for the user at their fingertips and mixing in the breeze intelligence and like give me some insights into this
Yeah.
particular in your company, sorry, what's happening so far with this deal, bringing it into the same place. So while I'm prepping to go into a meeting, I'm in that record anyway. Bring me everything and then use the AI to summarize and bring together the relevant points for me. I think that's really powerful. I think the the thing with AI is the more complex the data is, the more value you can get from HubSpot's AI in deciphering that complexity into
Mhm.
things just being merely complicated. And this is a bit that most people don't really understand. So the difference between complex and complicated. So for as long as sales leadership is still done by humans, this distinction is going to be important because we can deal with complicated things far easier than we can with complex things. So complex includes unknown inputs, unknown things are going to be brought into the mix. Complicated is when we know all the inputs and we can process that to a known outcome. So it's most back office systems tend to work on complicated things.
Mhm.
This is where you've got other humans in the mix and they're going to do all kinds of things, deals moving backwards in the sales pipeline, that kind of stuff. Or just, somebody going right back to the start when you thought that they were going to sign.
Mhm.
So that complex element of it, it's the sales data is often too large a data set to hold in your head. So there are just lots of unknowns, lots of things you just can't fit at the same time. And if we can use this bit, well, AI's got a bigger head, right? So it more in it. I'm one from a person who has a large head. I can sympathize, but when it comes to prioritizing leads, accounts, that kind of activity, it's processing more information than we can and should arrive at a better informed answer than we can. And if we can put the insights into the right place at the right time, we'll drive better sales activity to those better outcomes without necessarily having to understand everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And I completely understand what you mean. And I like how you touched on the how it's going to be drawing it down into the activity cards in a contact record or company record and things. So you've got all of that information right there. And I think a lot of times adoption of these CRMs and things by the sales team is normally because they can't see all that information really, really clearly. Another part of that is obviously coaching and development sometimes. So I want to touch on that as well because you talked about that earlier. AI can help with coaching and things. So let's go into that. Are there any specific AI features that make coaching better with HubSpot, would you say?
Um, yeah, so there's a line from the fantastic, cheesy 1953 film Jason and the Argonauts that I love, which where Zeus is impressed by Jason turning down his offer of a ship and warriors and turns to his fellow deities and says, "The gods are best served by those who serve themselves." Now, sales leaders are better people often the ones that we need to manage the least. They're not getting
Mhm.
on, we don't need to give them things; they're already doing it. Um, the best sales management techniques are in coaching and development of your salespeople. But this requires reviewing a lot of calls and meetings. So
Mm.
finding in those coachable points, the insight step, and then having the coaching session and get them to agree to do something, which is the activity, and then tracking the improvement that made, which is the outcome. So back to that insight activity outcome model.
Mhm.
Now, the more the salespeople can do this stuff themselves in terms of reviewing their own call summaries or using the AI transcripts and summaries to learn things from it right at that point of the data being created and track and then finding the specific things that they want help with as the insight and getting advice on the best course of action in that activity step with the manager and then just being able to track the results into an outcome and seeing that improve over time. I think that is the way it's going to make it easy for sales leaders to track those improvements and track the process and see the activities that our best salespeople are using to be able to self-improve and drive their own growth. And AI is just better at organizing this
Yeah.
information, all these different levels of information. It's just better at doing it. So in HubSpot, things like the conversational intelligence tool and the track terms are really good, and the reporting that utilizes the user object can really
Mm.
open up now because we're starting to look at the activity levels and the engagements of the user with everything that's going on and spotting some kind of behavioral benefits that some people are following and which other people might find challenging.
And that, I mean, that's something that we do internally at BabelQuest. And as someone that's used HubSpot for 10, I want to say 10 years, um, in your experience, now that they've got AI in it and everything, what has helped you improve your performance and close more deals?
Um, Two things for us to think about. To come back to again is about speed and quality.
Mhm.
Seen as acceleration and transformation. But think about first about how many deals can a salesperson manage? Like how many plates can they spin without any crashing down? Because there's always a limit, right? And when you drop a couple of plates, then the rest invariably are going to go down with them as well.
Mhm.
Real world examples I've seen are where salespeople have immediately seen an increase in the number of plates that they can keep spinning and get alerts to the ones that need urgent attention because it quickly helps them build the muscle memory to manage a fuller pipeline. And that's
Mm,
so it's like if you ever work behind a bar, right? Working behind a busy bar, the more you're exposed to having to serve multiple people at once, the easier it becomes. And then the less satisfied you are with your job when it's quiet. It's boring. Like
yeah.
it goes faster when you're doing loads of it. So you become used to it, acclimatized to that, and then it just becomes a habit that sticks, to quote the Buzzcocks, for anybody who gets that
Mhm,
reference. Um, so having your team acclimatized to that higher volume and becoming eager and capable of opening and managing a higher quality deals is the first real world impact you'll see as a sales leader. You see the acceleration first. This is improving efficiency. My people can do more.
mhm.
Next, you're going to see signs of transformation. So for signs, for an example, I like to use is I talk to the AI during meetings to make sure it captures the point and it assigns the task to the right person. So, like a TV detective using the phrase "for the benefit of the tape," it's you know I'm trying to make the steps clearer and easier to execute. If we're calling out something that in a point that this is an action point, this is something that Dave, you've said you're going to do, that you're going to get me the entity relationship diagram from IT by Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So we've got time to review it ahead of our call too. That will get stamped into the activity and be assigned to Dave. So it makes the next steps clear, easy to execute. I find it easier to think of AI as that assistant in this way.
Mhm.
And what can the assistant speed up for me now? And what can we improve in the next step? So the benefit's got to be a real world increase in both efficiency and effectiveness, not just playing with the new shiny toy.
I've not heard of that benefit really yet. I've not heard somebody say that actually is teaching you the habits to handle more. And I really like that. And that's something that we can see. And the way that you talk to AI, that's something that's evolved in your sales role since AI's kind of come about. So what else do you see evolving with AI in the sales landscape over the next couple of years?
God knows.
Who knows?
I wouldn't have predicted we would be doing more than 6 times the sales activity with the team only twice the size it was a year ago.
Mhm,
And there's going to be an upper limit to that, but I think the same principles today will still apply tomorrow in 2 to 3 years' time. I think fastest finger first is still going to continue to win more often. I think successful will be heavily dependent on data segmentation. So you have to be able to target and personalize well. So sales, you need to be working with marketing, with experts on this stuff, making sure your segmentation, your personalization, targeting is bang on. Um, Tracking the effectiveness of our communication and adjusting it to the situation. I think that kind of coaching element will begin to appear in real time. I think we're going to start seeing things. I wouldn't be surprised if things like the kind of crystal personality prediction stuff is able to listen into things and warn you. Hang on a minute, you're losing them. Eric, you're talking too fast. Right? You
too
feel the
much detail. This person wants direct comments.
they've got a question. They're trying to answer, and you're off monologuing like a bad guy in a Bond movie. Stop! Right? To intervene, or reckon I know everybody on the Teams call's got their hands up to ask a question. I'm blithely going on because I'm not even looking at the screen. I think that kind of thing is going to happen. What's going to help in that call. I think the coaching tips will likely become an essential and easy part of the wrap up for every sales meeting. I think look, the optimization is going to be right there in the moment. I think then tracking the impact of that coaching will become huge. I mean, essentially anywhere that there's too much data for sales leaders to process today, the AI will seek to do that for us, but in service of those strategic outcomes. I think there's money in them there hills. The people who develop an AI looking at the things. There's lots of data. It's currently too hard. It's currently too time consuming, so it doesn't happen. But if it wasn't hard and it wasn't time consuming, what would be the impact of it happening? People are going to pay money for that. So I'm going to see, I'll definitely see we'd see more in those areas. I think what's going to happen is that sales strategy will become much more focused and defined. It won't be a nebulous thing like it is now. It's different to every sales leader. There will be more definition to what a sales strategy truly is.
Mm.
Communication skills will be much deeper and better understood. It's not just kind of, oh, you've got great communication skills. There's going to be specifics in there about how you uncover information, how you empathize with people, how you negotiate towards a point of value. And there's going to be a lot more human elements in there because I think AI is going to push us to the edges where it can't affect change on its own. It's going to encourage us all to be better at the purely human stuff, which is interpersonal communication. We're going to be pushed out of the admin, pushed to the edges of how do we understand each other and add value better.
I love that. And we've only got time for one more question. Otherwise, I would go into a whole digress and talk about how well that's definitely going to affect how you hire salespeople and all sorts. But let's not go into that right now. Let's finish on one tip or best practice that you would recommend to sales leaders who are just starting to integrate AI into their teams.
Okay, so I think we've covered it a couple of times in this session already, but find ways to use AI to accelerate first and transform second. It's easier to find the places to accelerate. So the easiest place is to look at the amount of wrap up and post meeting actions. Because we can all have the stuff that's going into the research, but coming out the other end of it is where tends to be most of that time is really taken up. So once you've wrapped your meeting up, you use a transcription tool first off with meeting summaries. There's plenty out there. If you're using video conferencing, it's already there. It's in there somewhere. It's in Zoom. It's in Google Meet. If you're on something else, it's probably got one, although I couldn't imagine what that might be. There's plenty of others you can add on. There's plenty out there. But once you've managed to speed up that amount of the wrap up time, watch the impact on your sales team. Are they now able to do more sales meetings per day without you asking them to do it? Have they just got faster at being able to meet people quicker, get more meetings in? Look at how long it takes to embed that change. It's probably going to be a lot faster than anything you've tried to do before, especially if you haven't particularly called out, I want you to do this. Just let them naturally go faster because you're taking the hard work out of the way. Look at, have you increased capacity of your best salespeople faster than it would have been to have taken on board a new sales hire to get them to the same. If you can get your top salesperson increase their productivity by 10, 20, 30%, how long would it take you to get somebody in through the door to be able to make that same kind of difference? There'll be, other ends of the spectrum. I think then watching those things that have helped you improve those steps and make them move faster is how do you turn that into best practice that you can add to your coaching and onboarding plans to get the whole of the team to the same level, get to compete with each other and share some ideas. But if it can leave you like one thing to think about. So buyers will always want to talk to salespeople to get help if it's something that's novel or risky for them. So example, like the first time you bought an electric toothbrush, you probably didn't do much research or talk to anybody about it. You just picked it up off the shelf. Or somebody, oh, this is cool. You didn't have to think about it. But the first time you bought an electric car, and that probably took a lot more research and talking to people before you were ready to calculate the risk and make the change.
Well, that's a really good comparison, actually. And we'll leave it on that note for everyone to think about because we are at time now. And with the rate that AI is changing, I'm sure that you'll be back in less than 6 months to do this all again and talk about how it's all changed again. So thank you for joining us, Eric. And hopefully everybody has learned a few things today.
Thanks, Bitch.